Now, tensions are running deep in Ukraine, even as Russia maintains that it is not planning to launch an incursion into Ukraine. Russia is carrying out aerial drills just 75 kilometers from the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. The two Russian long-range strategic bombers took part in the joint military exercises with the Belarusian air forces. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, the Russian strategic bombers conducted maneuvers for approximately 4 hours in the Belarusian airspace. The mission came as the Kremlin has moved troops from Siberia and the Far East to Belarus for the sweeping joint military drills. And also satellite images from Friday show heavy Russian military deployments in southern Belarus. Aircraft, troops and air defense systems at military bases in 3 towns have in fact been captured in these aerial images. The American officials have said that Russia has in place nearly about 70% of the combat power that it believes that Moscow will need in case of a full-scale invasion into Ukraine. It could be sending in more battalions to the border. In the last 2 weeks, the number of battalions and the tactical groups in the border region has risen to 83 from 60, and 14 more are reportedly in transit by the Russian military units. Meanwhile, Ukraine has received another consignment of weapons from the United States as part of the defensive aid, totaling nearly about $200 million. Washington has said that it will continue to support Ukraine amidst concerns of over tens of thousands of Russian troops on its border. And NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has said that there has been a significant movement of Russian military forces into Ukraine's northern neighbor, Belarus, in recent days. The Kremlin has described it as a rehearsal for repelling external aggression. The Allied Resolve exercises will be running until the 20th of February, and Moscow has said that its forces will withdraw after the drills. In support of the NATO troops, the US soldiers landed at a military base in Germany. The troops are from the 18 Airborne Corps, as NATO is looking to reinforce its eastern flank. Senior members of the US military also arrived in Poland. The military deployments are a part of the Western Allies' reaction to Russia's military presence near the Ukrainian border. On Wednesday, the United States has announced the deployment of nearly about 3,000 American troops to Eastern Europe in the coming days. Almost about 1,700 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division are due to be stationed in Poland on a temporary basis. The US already has about 4,500 troops in Poland. In both the NATO and also in bilateral capacity, this is the troop buildup that we are looking at on the part of the Americans and the NATO alliance. Europe is, of course, scrambling to try and intercept a conflict ahead of travelling to Moscow and Kiev. The French President Emmanuel Macron spoke with the NATO head Jens Stoltenberg about the Ukrainian crisis. Macron has also spoken with the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson as well. With Stoltenberg, Macron insisted on finding a path to de-escalation through dialogue. The French leader will attempt to make progress on the issue during meetings with Vladimir Putin in Moscow on Monday and with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev on Tuesday. And civilian self-defense training has continued on the outskirts of Kiev. Volunteers have joined former military personnel on how to handle weapons and also to administer first aid. The Kievan residents from diverse age groups came to the outskirts of the city to be trained in the basic knowledge of how to defend themselves in case of a Russian invasion all the way till the capital. Meanwhile, in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv, thousands of people marched on Saturday. The Ukrainians gathered to protest against any possible Russian invasion and to demonstrate unity with the rest of Ukraine. Kharkiv is just about 40 kilometers from some of the tens of thousands of Russian troops who have been amassed at the border of Ukraine. If Russia were to invade, then some of Kharkiv's over 1 million people have said that they are ready to abandon their civilian lives and they will wage a guerrilla campaign against one of the world's strongest military powers presently. And WION's executive editor Palki Shema Upadhyay is presently in Kiev. She's been tracking the developments for us from ground zero in terms of the preparations that are underway in Ukraine to defend themselves in case of a Russian incursion. Listen in to this ground report.
Russian troops have encircled Ukraine. Tens of thousands of soldiers are deployed along the border. And NATO allies are trying to build pressure on Moscow by countering those deployments. US Air Force planes carrying soldiers landed in Poland. This is barely 100 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. And this latest troop addition is over and above the 4,500 US troops already stationed here.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.